What's going on, guys? So today we are going to be talking about owner mentality. Now, this is one of the biggest things that you guys have to learn when you're starting a server or even a business in general. When an owner of a server or a business is too hot-headed or thinks with emotions or loves starting conflicts, etc., it is going to make your life harder as an owner, and it's not going to grow your community as much as it would if you were calm, composed, and ultimately willing to sacrifice your fun for others. And I'm going to tell you why. So first, let's look at owner mentality, and we're going to get a little bit scientific here because I think it's very important for you guys to understand that this is actually a scientific process of owning something, a business, a community. And when we talk about DayZ servers, you're going to run into a lot of issues with people where they feel like they're in the right, and you have to try to meet that middle ground with them so that they're happy, but then also not overstepping where you then now create issues for other people. And so this is extremely important because if you're not understanding these fundamental qualities of being an owner of a brand or a community, then you're going to run into future issues, and this is not going to be good for you. So if you cannot get through this part, this will be very, very rough for you. You're going to have a hard time with running a server and running a brand. So first, we're going to start off with emotional intelligence, or EQ. And it is more valuable than technical skills for leadership success. And it is that because leaders with high EQ are better at resolving conflict, staying calm, and creating a positive team atmosphere. A lack of emotional intelligence can lead to workplace conflict and poor communications. So this is where you get into talking with your staff, talking with your communities. You don't want to be emotional when you're dealing with conflict. You are going to deal with conflict. It is completely normal, and it is standard when it comes to owning a brand and owning a community. There's always drama that breaks out, and you guys have to be able to be the middleman and see both sides and then come to an agreement in the middle and resolve the conflict fairly for both parties. Now, here's some attributes that you have to make sure you have when owning a server or owning a brand in general, and that's self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, and relationship management. And so self-awareness is recognizing and managing your emotions. So if you can recognize that you are kind of going over the top with this, maybe it's time for you to step back, recoup, and say, okay, hold on, let me look at this with a clearer mindset, because I'm getting upset right now and I don't want that to get transcribed into my community, and then people will start looking at me differently. So it's always good to take a step back and say, okay, am I going a little crazy on this? And then self-management is handling stress and maintaining control. So you're going to get put into situations where it's going to be very stressful. There's going to be a lot of things going on, and you have to be able to manage that and say, okay, how do I handle this for me as a person, as the owner? How do I handle this so I don't look like I'm under pressure, but I'm still looking composed and I can handle everything? And so you have to be able to understand that you're going to get put into situations where you have to understand how to control your community and how to handle the hard situations. And social awareness is understanding the emotions of others. Now, this is extremely important because you're going to be getting tickets for people that are complaining about something, and hey, he griefed my base, or hey, he did this. And so you have to be able to understand that the emotions of other people are valid, and you can't just toss those aside and say that they're not, because when you do that, people aren't going to agree with you, and they're not going to want to work with you because you're not looking at it from their standpoint. You're looking at it from the owner's standpoint. Oh, well, it didn't happen to me, so why should I care? That's not how you handle these situations. You're never, ever, ever going to get anywhere if that's how you handle your customers and your community. You have to understand that their emotions are valid, but sometimes they might be crossing the line. So you have to understand that, yes, their emotions might be valid, but there's a middle ground, and you have to be able to tell them, hey, you're going a little crazy right now. Please, can you understand this? And then you explain it to them how it's supposed to be in your rules or your setup in your community. And then relationship management is building strong, empathetic relationships. And so this one goes into when you're going to be building your staff. You really want to make sure that you have strong and professional relationships with your staff. That includes your admins, moderators, and traders, because ultimately, if you're an asshole, people are going to treat you like one. And so you don't want to be that. You want to be a strong-minded person, fair, and you want to understand that these people are volunteers. Unless you're paying them, they're volunteers. So you have to understand that now you are in charge. This is your responsibility, not theirs. They're volunteering with you. You could pay them. I've paid my admins, I've paid my moderators before, real cash. So they're a little bit more involved with my work. However, if you aren't paying them, which most of the time I didn't, these people are volunteers, you have to understand that it's not their job to run your server. It is ultimately your job. And so you have to build that strong relationship with them to say, hey, I appreciate that you are helping me. This is my gig and I have to handle this. So what I usually do is if the situation is too crazy for them, I'll tell them, hey, step back, it's okay, I'll handle it myself. Now, when you look at self-awareness, there's a lot of things that go into that. And so we're going to read a couple things here. So self-awareness is crucial for leaders to understand their emotions and make better decisions. Because if you aren't self-aware of how you are feeling, you're going to make yourself look dumb and you're going to make yourself look weak, because you're not going to look like you are able to handle situations under pressure. And that leads into the next point, which is leaders who are self-reflective are less likely to make emotional, reactive decisions and can remain calm under pressure. So that is huge, because if you can see yourself going a little crazy, it's time for you to take a step back and say, hold on, I need to calm down. I need to put my phone down for a little bit and then get back to this when I'm a little bit more clear-minded. And I've done that a couple times. I've seen myself getting a little too crazy. And so I've just said, okay, hold on, I need to take a step back. Let me come back at this when I'm feeling a little bit better about the situation. And that is totally fine, because ultimately that is going to be better for you in the long term, because then people aren't going to be able to use stuff against you in the future. And then being aware of one's strengths, weaknesses, and emotional triggers can prevent conflicts and improve team morale. So I have a couple admins in my server, and both of them have their strengths and they have their weaknesses. Now, my one admin is very good at answering tickets, and she does amazing at any other things when it comes to tickets and handling people that are upset or triggered or anything like that. And then I have another admin that's kind of like the bad cop, right? He's great. He's a great guy, but sometimes he can get a little bit crazy when it comes to the conflict tickets. So he doesn't really handle those as much as the logistics tickets. So when it comes to, building a base, or if somebody got griefed or somebody got boosted into, he'll look in the logs, he'll find the problem, and he'll ban the user. But when it comes to issues internally with people, sometimes he can get a little crazy. So it's okay to understand that sometimes your staff has their strengths, they have their weaknesses, but you have to make sure to keep your team together, and that's going to improve your team morale. And feedback from others can help leaders uncover blind spots and grow. Now, this is so massive, and I've received so many compliments on my server simply because I have a server feedback section. In my Discord, I actually have a server suggestions area. Now, I don't let that place get out of hand, because sometimes I have things in the server for a reason. And so people might say, oh, well, increase this because I can't find it enough. Well, I actually have it low like that for a reason. And so you have to explain to people that it's okay to give you constructive criticism, but they can't be rude about it, and they have to provide an explanation as to why they think it should be changed, and then they have to provide a solution as to how that can be changed. So a feedback section or feedback from others is extremely important. It's going to make you look better as an owner, because people are going to look at you and say, wow, he's actually listening to his community. He or she is listening to his community, and they really want to make this place good for me as a player. And people really, really resonate with that. So now you look at your leadership. And so leaders who are fair and willing to compromise build stronger communities and teams. Now, this is massive, because you have to then now understand that when you own a server, unless you're doing it for you and your friends, this server is for your community. It's not for you. Now, when I made my server, I, of course, had a reason why I built my server. A little bit of a backstory on why I built my server was because I had gotten banned from another server, and the owner of that server banned me from his server because I gave him suggestions on how to make it better. Or maybe just a couple things that I told him didn't really stick with him, and so he didn't like the fact that I gave him that criticism. And so he ended up banning me, and it led to me wanting to start my own server, and here we are today. And so you have to learn that your community is going to want things from you. But you have to make sure to stick to your guns and understand that, yeah, they might want something, right? But you have to understand that there are rules in place and you have things set up for a reason. However, you're willing to compromise for their fun and their reason to be there. And then being rigid or hot-headed can cause division and lead to poor decision making and conflict. This line right here is one of the biggest reasons why I see servers fail. And it's because the owners are way too hot-headed. They get into too much conflict, and it leads to people not wanting to play their server, because why would you want to play with somebody who is so hot-headed and can make crazy decisions that ultimately might affect you as a player? I don't think anybody wants to play a server or do anything with somebody who is rigid or hot-headed. So you have to make sure not to be like that. These are your customers. These are your community members. You have to treat them fairly, and you have to treat them with respect. Now, of course, if people treat you disrespectfully, then of course you could treat them disrespectfully back. But do it in a way where you're doing it smart and methodical, where you're just laying out facts. You're not being an asshole, but you're just laying out facts. Because if they're being disrespectful towards you, you're not going to say, oh, it's okay, man, I love you. No, like, you're going to get disrespect back, but you're going to do it in a very professional way, and you're going to do it in a very meaningful way to where they understand now your standpoint, but you're still standing your ground as an owner. So this line right here, being rigid or hot-headed, do not do this, or this is not for you. You cannot own a brand and you cannot own a community if you are rigid or hot-headed, period. And a balanced approach encourages mutual respect and cooperation, preventing unnecessary drama and creating a positive environment. So those two lines kind of go hand in hand together. This is exactly what I meant by mutual respect. If you treat somebody with respect, they are most of the time going to treat you with that same respect. And they're going to want to cooperate with you in owning your server or building your community. A lot of the people in my server, like my traders, moderators, admins, they're volunteers. But they love my community so much, they love my server so much, that they want it to grow because they love it, they resonate with it. And because I've built such a good relationship with my staff, these people are willing to spend a lot of time making sure my community is clean, making sure it's under control, and amongst many other things as well. And plus, as an owner, you don't want drama. I mean, maybe if you do, I guess. But there's two different kinds of drama, right? There's the drama of the server, which are people that are beefing about in-game stuff, which is what you want. And then there's drama that is related to you, your server, and how it's ran. Now, that is the type of drama you do not want. The drama you do want, of course, is, like I just said, the drama that is involved in the game. So when people are in trash talk or in the chats and they're talking crap to each other because they want to, fight in the game, that is amazing, because what is that doing? That's making those people play your server more. That's making those people want to actually participate in your server and play. So that's insane, because you're going to want that. You want that drama, or else your server is probably not going to be as fun for people. A lot of the times people like my server because of that drama, because that there's this beef with people. Hey, I'm going to raid your base. No, I'm going to raid you first. And that beef right there, that drama, is what is going to lead to your server being full, exciting, and filled with things for people to do. But the drama you want to avoid is exactly the drama of things against you as the owner, things against you as your community and your brand. You don't want any drama that's going to potentially affect your brand or your community in a negative way. So if we look at my Discord here, you can see that I have a server suggestions section. And this is what I was talking about with feedback. So this is actually a forum channel. You probably aren't going to be able to create a forum channel right away, because as you start a Discord, they only give you a certain amount of channels that you can create until your server becomes a registered community, which mine has, because it's got over 4,500 members in it, and a lot of server boosts, etc. So the faster you have that happening, the faster you could actually have channels like this. So ultimately, look, like this guy says, sell dried cannabis. So he made a suggestion that got 31 likes on it. So that means that the greater majority of the community that read this want this change. So he said, I think dried cannabis should be able to be sold instead of just raw. So, and then he gets into like the specifics. Now, this is a great suggestion by somebody in the server, and it got only one minus or one down like on it, but that could have just been a troll. But a lot of people are agreeing with this. They say, okay, yeah, we should do this. And now I went down in the bottom and I made this change because my community wanted this change. I said done because I ultimately said, okay, let's look at it, right? Sell dried cannabis. Logistically, is that good for the server? I'm thinking of it in the owner standpoint. Okay, yeah, I don't think it's a bad thing. Okay, so let's do it, right? If it is like, oh, well, you should be able to sell punch cards and it got a bunch of likes on it. I personally, as a server owner, don't think that selling punch cards is a smart thing to do. I like it that people have to go around the server and find those punch cards, that they have to then now have this external item that is so rare that you have to find it, because ultimately that's going to lead to people wanting to play the server more. They're going to run around the map, they're going to look for things. And so even if that got a bunch of likes, I'm going to stick to my guns and I'm going to say, hey guys, I don't think that's a good idea, and let me tell you why. And so ultimately, this is a very important section for you as an owner, because sometimes people will make suggestions on your coding, right? Like, hey, I found like something wrong with this area. And so you go look at that area and you're like, oh crap, you're right. Like that needs to be fixed. So this is extremely important, and it's going to make you look better as an owner and as a community owner and as a brand owner, because you are now listening to your community. You're letting your community express their concerns about what they might have with your server, and it might not be bad. Like sell dried cannabis, that's not a bad thing. That's just a preference thing. So of course I didn't make a big deal out of it, and I just said, okay, I'm going to do it. It's done. And so that right there is going to take you so far. And owner mentality, this section, this lesson is so important. And I need you guys to understand how important this is, because you're never going to get anywhere with a brand or a community if you are hot-headed and just you blow off the rails so fast, because nobody wants to work with somebody like that. Nobody wants to give money to somebody like that, because why would you want to support somebody who's frankly an asshole? So don't be that guy. Don't be that girl. I know you guys are better than that. And so take these words and these definitions and understand that this server is not only just for you, but it's for your players. Okay? They join your server because they want to play your server. They like it. But ultimately, a lot of the people who play my server, they have a high respect for me as a person, because I give them respect as players. So most of the time, unless they're assholes, they're going to be disrespectful towards you even though you're showing them respect. I always like to say, kill somebody with kindness, and that has always got me farther than being disrespectful back to somebody. So I usually like to kill people with kindness, but of course you handle the situations as you think you see fit. But from my personal experience, being a much more calm person and handling the situation professionally has always been better for me and my community as a whole. So I hope this was very helpful for you guys, and I suggest that you take this very seriously. It's not just a game server, it's not just a video game. This is your community and this is your brand. So you want to take this seriously and make sure that you don't go over the rails and ultimately lose your community because you are unable to take criticism as an owner and as a person. So don't be like that. Trust me, I've seen a lot of servers fail, crash, and burn because the owner is just so hot-headed and cannot take constructive criticism. So I appreciate you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next lesson.